Okay, what's up, everybody? Thank you for dropping by. We have some more SBC gaming news, but before I begin, I know it's been around a month since I last released an episode, and let me explain why it took so long. I haven't forgotten. I read all the comments, and I was working on a guide. And during that guide process, it took a long time, and I even recorded a couple takes of an SBC gaming news episode, which I just deleted because I wanted to finish the guide first. And yeah, it took me 1 month. So I have a script dated in around September 1st, and then I have a revised script around September 7th. Ever since then, I've been going back and trying to get more data and update my guide, and then get it to the point where I feel comfortable releasing a video. And I have a couple takes which I also deleted. And finally, I got to the point where I'm like, yeah, I'll just make it simple and focus on the actual core thing I'm trying to cover, and then release the video. And it's a little bit worse in terms of it's not scripted. It took multiple takes for certain sections because if you don't have a script, you have to speak off the cuff, and sometimes it ends up being a little bit more rough. But I was like, okay, this is good, and then released, and that process took about a month. So when someone asks me a question, I answer them and try to give them as much detailed information in the comment section so that they have their answer just from my comment alone. After that, I take that answer that I provided and I use that as the foundation for my script. And then I will do as much research as possible to make sure it's reliable, test out what I'm doing on my actual handheld, make sure it works properly, look for any improvements to the process, and then revise the script, sleep on it, come back to it a few days later, read over it again, and see if I can make it better in terms of the flow or keeping information concise or adding more information. So that process takes a long time. And even then, I might make some mistakes in my guides. I can recognize that. There's some parts where I'm like, oh, that's just, how did I make that stupid mistake? But the point is, I don't know a lot of stuff. And so when someone asks me a question, I have to look it up. So I don't really know a lot of stuff about handhelds. I don't have that information experience. I have to do research. So I can absorb that information and test it out and validate it, but I never claim to be an expert. I don't think I'm really good with, all the software stuff, but I'll give an example for my most recent guide for collections. So I want to ask a question, like, how do you hide the system folders for the collection? And I found a solution that's not ideal, but essentially, you can dump the text file shortcuts into the ROMs directory, but you have to have the system name in front of it. So, like, if you're playing a Game Boy Advance game, the beginning of the file name has to have GBA all in uppercase, space, and then the game name. So the system name has to match the system folders on whichever operating system version you're using. And how I did it was I used the base name command and I cut out the first word. So I had to look that up. Like, how do I get the first word of a string in terminal? And then how do I get the file name, and stuff like that. So I did that during lunchtime while I was working. I brought my laptop with me and I looked it up. And that came after the video was made. So there's a lot of stuff I could cover. It's just very hard to get everything. Also, like, I have to go over how to update the firmware, update stock OS files. It might not work. The collections may not work unless you do that. But I don't want to repeat that information. So what I'm going to do for my next series of videos is I'm just going to make as many guides on all the handles I have on how to update the stock firmware slash operating system, and then how to install a custom firmware or custom operating system, how to configure it and all that, and then just make one mega guide for each handheld, for each operating system, and then just link that into my other guides when I need to. Because, if you are making a guide a week and you have to repeat the same information in every guide, it's going to get a little bit tiring. So, anyways, that's roughly why it took me so long. It just takes forever to make a guide, get it to the point where I like it, and I go through multiple versions, and whatever version I end up releasing is the last version that I worked on. So, yeah, it took a month. I didn't forget about all the people watching. Alright, let's take a look at the comments now, and I was really grateful for all the comments here. They were very nice. And to be honest, this is something I wanted to talk about, but I made multiple versions of a previous gaming news episode where I went over this, and I'll just briefly touch upon it. But in my opinion, I think content is inherently more bad than good. And let me explain why. This is my opinion, and I don't think anyone can change their mind. But when you make content in modern times, you're doing it to gain something. Even though you might be helping other people, like if you make guides, you help people, but if you make guides very well, then more people are going to watch it, and the more that you gain from it. There's a direct benefit to the content creator. Like for me, I would get more money, through ad revenue. I could possibly leverage that to make sponsored content, and then I can make affiliate links and then, benefit from that as well. I don't have any of that right now. I just have ad revenue, and for the record, I don't make that much. So, yeah, my viewership has dropped considerably because I'm not releasing content regularly. So I make roughly $25 a month now, and for YouTube, you have to make over $100 before you get a payout. So every 4 months or so, I'll get $100, and I use that to buy a handheld so I can make more guides. So full transparency, that's all I'm getting. I don't have any affiliate links. I don't have any sponsored content. I don't get anything for free. For handheld stuff, I used to get game keys for free to make previews and stuff, but only very small indie companies. But that's another topic. There's a reason why I left that scene, but yeah. So you as a content creator get direct benefits, and when you get benefits, you're more incentivized to make sure that you keep getting those benefits. And so it stops being about, helping out the people watching, providing something of value to them. It becomes more self-focused. And that's why a lot of content creators are very egotistical and, slightly sociopathic, or they might be psychopaths. I mean, we're seeing all this drama come out. I don't know if you call it drama, but news come out that these content creators are messed up people, just like Hollywood. And, you can talk about like P. Diddy, Mr. Beast, all that stuff. So don't want to get into that, but, like in this modern day and age, all these companies are trying to steal away your attention and get you hooked on ever consuming content. Don't think about it, just consume. A treadmill of endless consumption. You get fed dopamine drips, just keep you hooked and keep you high, and in this day and age, we gotta be more alert. We have to be sober-minded, and we have to be present in the present. And it's ruining lives, It's not something a lot of people consider because everyone does it, but we're not really in the present, We're always thinking about something else. We're always consuming content. Could be listening to music, podcasts, watching videos. And the sad thing I saw when I was on the plane recently was people couldn't put down their phones, It's just like scrolling through Instagram and their thumbs are flying because you have to keep those dopamine hits coming, right? So it's like they don't ever stay present on a picture or a video. They're always scrolling, But anyways, I was considering deleting my channel and everything. I went through the process of deleting a lot of online accounts, gaming accounts, all of that, and a lot of content outlets that I was maintaining. I deleted a lot of those, but I kept my main YouTube channel, my main blog, and my main podcast feed. But I was considering deleting that stuff because while I like retro handhelds and while I like helping people out, you kind of have this unintended side effect of getting people to consume more handhelds. So that's something I've been struggling with where, when I cover all this handheld stuff, it might make someone want to buy them, when they don't need it or they might not have the money for it. And yeah, that's just, I'm contributing to this endless cycle of consumption. Anyways, that's something I'm struggling with, and I was actually considering deleting my channel until I saw the comments, and I was like, y'all are the homies. And I keep my channel around for a little bit longer. I don't know how to pivot the content so that I don't either intentionally or unintentionally push people towards mindless consumption, Anyways, let's go over the comments. And then I bought a 3DS and a Switch, so I want to go over that. And then just one news item covering the Retroid Pocket Mini. And then we'll call it quits until, next episode. So we got Grave 16. Man, it's good to be back home. Been away for 2 weeks. Hope you're doing good, my fella. Yeah, Grape is my adopted son from Twitch. I'm just joking, but long-time viewer. We got Saito Stockman. Thanks for the vid, my friend. No, thank you for dropping by and watching. I appreciate all of y'all. Honestly, without you guys, I probably would have just deleted my channel. It meant a lot to me because I didn't make a video for like 2-3 months, and I made one. And then the same people that always drop by came back and left all these comments, very nice comments, telling me, "Hey, don't worry about it. Just release it whenever you can." We got FSZT6TM talking about, getting an RG35XX SP instead of Miu Flip. And I was mentioning, hey, there's been a lot of talk with the rate at which Anbernic is releasing consoles. They may actually just release a large clamshell with thumbsticks, like a 4-inch display. There was a recent post where Anbernic has some prototype sketches for a dual screen system. So I think one of them was a clamshell. Another one was a sliding system, so you slide it up and then there'll be a screen underneath. That one I'm a little iffy about considering Anbernic's overall build quality and engineering. And then there's another one where it's like a 2DS, where just 2 screens on there. So I think that'll be pretty good because, I would like to see a dual screen system aimed at DS and 3DS because there's a lot of good games that are very expensive now. And having the benefit of save states as well as upscale resolution on nicer screens would be pretty sweet. Here's Ilka or Yoldaz. You can post shorter videos, each with one topic, news, etc. I wouldn't worry about the quality much or have a consistent release schedule. Thank you so much for saying that. That means a lot. And while my videos, I wouldn't consider them as quality, but I do put a lot of effort into making them feel right to me. So even for these SBC gaming news episodes, I'm just recording on my phone. I don't have fancy lights, but I do multiple takes. So I spend hours recording sometimes because if the flow feels weird, I might just start over again, even though I'm like towards the end. And this is my, I think, 4th take, by the way. So I say a lot of stuff that I cut out too. So, if you're interested, let me know. I might put those in at the end or something, my previous takes. But yeah, thanks so much for saying that. I appreciate it. And the reason why I don't want to post as much news episodes without posting guides is this is the one format where I allow myself to do whatever I feel like doing, And if I do more of that, then it becomes more focused on like what I want to do instead of trying to help people out. So I try to stagger, one guide, one SBC Gaming News episode, one guide, one news episode, so that, I have to make something that would have utility to the people watching. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Try to make more consistent guys. It's just that sometimes it takes a long time to get the script, to the point where I like it. We got on PC 2046, and it's talking about, just what I was talking about, which is focusing on hardware, one game at a time, physical hardware. And thank you for that comment because I know this guy watched the video because he's directly responding to something I was talking about. And I totally agree to the fact that I think we are pretty much addicted to tech. And smartphones dumb people, have you ever heard that saying? But yeah, I don't know. I feel like disconnecting is pretty good. So I stopped consuming a lot of media. I don't listen to music anymore, watch TV shows, movies. I quit anime. I only watch a few YouTube channels, mostly Gamers Nexus I really enjoy. I will watch a few Louis Rossmann clips. He's obviously super pessimistic and angry, but I just want to see what ways companies are trying to screw consumers of their rights and stay aware of that because it's happening, and once your rights are taken away, it's very hard to get them back. So I kind of like to stay informed on what's happening. Because I believe heavily in consumer rights. I think it's the only way we can protect ourselves in terms of preventing anything or anyone coming in and taking those rights away is we have to know what our rights are and fight against having those rights taken away from us. So it's a little bit hard because people just don't care. But I care, so. We got Blue Dwarf. Name. Be my sugar duck daddy, yo. So this is my homie from Twitch. I think he still streams. I haven't checked recently, but I deleted my Twitch account and I stopped streaming. But he was streaming Rainbow Six Siege last time I checked. If you want to check him out, go ahead. He's a pretty nice guy. We got Goyo Freak saying shut up and make more videos. And obviously saying that in a joking manner. And after some exchange, he said, just do what you feel, bro. Don't over demand yourself if you're going to get stressed or something. Just flow with your content so the rest of us enjoy it as much as you. Take care. Thanks for saying that, man. I appreciate it. That's very wholesome. I'm trying to make more guides and then have them come out more regularly. But once again, like I didn't predict that the last guide I made was going to take a full month. I meant to do it in a week, but another thing about the benefit of waiting is there's some developments that make the process easier. So for collections on Intrumia Smart Pro, there's an app called Collagen developed by RKR87, and his most recent update made it work on stock OS. So the collections themselves don't launch properly, but it's a very easy fix. I go over that. But Collagen wouldn't launch before on stock OS, and now it does. And having Collagen available on stock OS makes making collections a lot easier than manually creating them, which is a headache. So I think that's awesome. And that definitely will help people out if they want to use it. So the next series of guides that I want to make is how to update stock firmware and stock OS files on the Tremia Smart Pro. And I want to include how to recover a bad firmware flash. And then another guide on how to install Crossmix and how to update Crossmix. And then probably one on how to install Onion OS on the Vita Mini Plus. Because once again, when I go over a topic or a guide, I always have to include those things, and I'm tired of including them in every single guide. and stuff like how to do it on the phone, how to do it using a Mac. I want to cover every element if possible. The phone part is a little bit hard if you have to flash flash an image to a micro SD card, because all the apps are not reliable. I tried them on my phone. They always fail. I haven't found a reliable way without having to root your phone. But yeah, stuff like Droid, all that, it doesn't work 100% guaranteed. Also, formatting a micro SD card that's larger than 64 gigabytes requires rooting your phone. But I was thinking of a workaround where you just have a blank image of like something bigger than 164 gigabytes. 64 gigabytes. So I was thinking maybe that would work, like having an image of an empty 128 micro SD card, 128 gigabyte, 256, etc. And see if I could just flash that onto a micro SD card and have it be FAT32. I'm not sure if that's gonna work, but I want to check that out. But yeah, there's a lot of ideas I have. I also want to make an app where people can ask questions and then I'll answer directly. Because I know people, when they ask questions, they haven't watched the video. Like, it's not a pet. It's sort of a pet peeve, but I know why, because they don't want to waste the time to watch the guide. So if they have a question, they'll ask it, and I'm like, I answered this question in the guide video, so I know you didn't watch it. But you know, if they ask a question, like, why don't I just have an app that streamlines the process, so they can just ask it on the app, and then whenever I read it, I'll answer it. Also make it possible that you can sort through previous answers. Search through, I mean, and then see if your question has been asked, but people will not bother to do that as well. So it's just provide them a fast and easy way to get answers. And then, you know, if that app takes off, if I make it, you know, I don't have a lot of time, but that's something I wanted to do. If it takes off, then I can hire people who are, who can work on answering questions. But yeah, that's an idea I had. All right. Now let's go over my recent hardware acquisitions. So I have a Switch Lite and a 3DS. So I bought this case on Amazon for like $7. And then here is my Hyrule edition Switch Lite that I got for $210. I really like the paint job on this. The gold bezel looks pretty nice too. I'm playing Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom. And let me get the card out so Nintendo doesn't strike my channel. I'm probably not going to cover Nintendo games ever, but here it is. And I'm really liking this game. If you like top-down Zelda games, Echoes of Wisdom is top-notch. It's a little bit different. It feels very unique in that you play as, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but the main mechanic is you can copy objects in the world and then use them to navigate puzzles or even combat. And the puzzles feel pretty darn nice. They're not very hard. Playing through the game, I didn't feel, it being a challenge at all. And there's a harder difficulty level you can play at. Or you can restrict yourself and make the game harder. But yeah, playing through it, I was like, wow, this is a lot of wholesome fun. And it kind of brought memories back of playing older Zelda games. And I recently beat Link's Awakening. And playing through that, I was like, wow, this game isn't hard, but it's a lot of fun. And so I kind of like games like that, where it's like, it doesn't have to be difficult. It just has to be fun and engaging. So highly recommend checking out Echoes of Wisdom. The limited edition Switch Lite wasn't worth it because you can get a used Switch Lite for roughly $100 or less. And you can buy a new Switch Lite for roughly $150 or less, or a little bit more. And so I overpaid, but I wanted this one. Also, one other thing I want to do is I want to get another Switch Lite and then get Taki's OLED screen mod, which looks amazing. So it comes with a new shell. So I want to get like kind of like a beat up Switch Lite for cheap. And then it comes with an OLED screen, which looks fantastic. Comes with a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which increases the lifetime. I'm getting roughly like 4-ish hours on the Switch. I put it in airplane mode. Brightness is kind of high and sound is about mid. And so having more battery life would be nice. And then it has video out or HDMI out. And also I want to install a mod chip on it so that I can overclock my Switch Lite. I know it'll decrease the battery life a little bit, but you can play games a little bit smoother. So Echoes of Wisdom runs well for the most part, but in the overworld, you do see slowdowns. And we've seen that in many Switch games where it just doesn't run at a steady frame rate, and it makes the experience very lackluster in some ways. In this game, I don't mind it too much, but I know like some of the Pokemon games has really bad slowdowns. But yeah, so being able to overclock it, and then another thing is, talking about consumer rights, I really don't like how things are linked to the hardware and on Nintendo server side. I'm gonna go over that on the 3DS later, but your save files are on the handheld's internal memory, so you can't really back them up unless you have your system hacked. And so if your system is lost or stolen, it's gone unless you subscribe to Nintendo Online, in which case you can enable cloud saves. But not every game has cloud saves enabled, so you can't enable it for a lot of games. Not a lot, sorry. Maybe like Pokemon or something. Some games are restrictive. And so I like having control over my data, because if I spent, 40 hours playing a game and like unlocking everything, I would like to have that data, available. I would like to back it up. Even though I may never play the game again, I just want to have that. And being unable to do that kind of drives me crazy. So I want to hack it so I can, back up my save data. Also want to keep a backup of my cartridges in case it gets, corrupted over time. I want the game to last for my lifetime. So, it can get corrupted, it can get stolen, it can get damaged. So having a backup of games that I own would be something I'm interested in too. I'm not really interested in pirating games. That's a topic that I don't want to really go into, but just briefly touching on the sentiment of people saying, hey, you should pirate games, after Nintendo, all that. Just a quick rebuttal. For starters, the people making the games are not the people going after people and suing them. So, there's been recent news. Russ from Retro Game Corps got 2 strikes on his channel from Nintendo. Nintendo is suing Palworld over patent infringement. So it's not because of the Pokemon designs that they will lose that lawsuit, but they can sue them for patents. And one of the patents that people were thinking about was storing creatures in balls. So even though they might lose that lawsuit, it's so expensive and these people can't afford it that they settle. And there's like something crazy where Nintendo has like a 99.99% win rate in that they don't necessarily win all the lawsuits, but people will settle and settle in terms on terms that are advantageous to Nintendo. So that stuff, yeah, that's not nice. That's BS. But like, those are not the devs, and so punishing the devs for something another department does is silly. Another thing is, if everyone pirated Nintendo games, Nintendo would make no money, and they would no longer be able to produce any hardware or software. So all the Nintendo games would vanish, and I don't think that's something people want. So all those people saying that stuff, I think really they just want to play Nintendo games for free and then look virtuous, or have the moral high ground while doing so. I think that's silly. If you just want to play for free, just say that, Let's keep it at that for anything. But yeah, anyways. Here's my 3DS. I bought it from Japan. It was very expensive. It's a dual IPS version, and it was very clean. I had to do a little bit of cleaning on the sides here, a little bit of dirt accumulation, and yeah, I paid a lot of money for this. It was more than my Switch Lite. So I am playing Harvest Moon Skytree Village. It's a little blurry, but I am not liking the game too much because I am a huge fan of Harvest Moon, and the game is not a real Harvest Moon game in my opinion, in that I can feel like the dev team is different. So I know for Harvest Moon, the original devs left to join another company, and then they are making the Story of Seasons series. And the main reason why I don't like this is, what I like about Harvest Moon is that it feels very organic. So it's very shallow in terms of the interactions you can have with the NPCs and everything, but there's like little memorable moments, and I still remember playing Harvest Moon 64, and I would play the game multiple times, but every time I would go after the winery's daughter, or grapevine, or whatever it was, as your wife, right? But there are like moments where it felt pretty organic. So you get like a one day where it's like raining or gloomy, and then both of you get trapped in the basement and sort of have like this moment where you're connecting, right? And so I still remember that moment, and this game seems pretty shallow in that, like, every day you have a dream of a new person coming to the village, and then you meet them as soon as you exit your door to the house, and then you have this conversation, and then they dip. And then instead of like exploring a village, so it's like you have one area where everyone lives and there's really nothing to explore. It's accessible. And then you have another area where you just farm everything. And there's a little bit of exploration in that, you gotta help trees grow, and then you unlock a new area. And it just feels really shallow, and you don't have the same feeling of exploring a village and a landscape that feels lived in, meeting people because you stumbled upon them, as opposed to the game shoving them in your face. And it just feels very, I don't know, it just feels lifeless in that there's a lot of hooks they use that modern gaming uses, where it's like, here's a quest, here's a quest tracker, here's a quest marker, here's XP or whatever for farming more, here's a little sound effect that plays when you complete the quest. And when I see mechanics like that, where they're designed purely to keep you hooked, I just lose a little bit of interest. Whereas, playing Echoes of Wisdom, you do see a little bit of that, but it's mostly optional, and it's just up to you to make your own fun. And that's something that's kind of lacking in modern game design, because game companies want to milk you for your time and money. And in order to do that, they have to keep you playing the game. So, another topic for another time. But yeah, is the 3DS worth it? Sort of. The reason why I say that is the 3DS is kind of hard to emulate when you're playing games that require use of both screens, the microphone, like you closing the screen and stuff. Fortunately, a lot of games don't do that, but it still feels the best having a two-screen system, and it just, the original hardware feels so good. One thing I noticed when playing this was the audio is so crisp on the Switch Lite as well. The audio is well designed. I don't know if it's a combination of the hardware and software, but whatever it is, it just sounds better than these, cheaper handhelds, where it's decent audio for sure, but nothing compared to Nintendo's hardware. So yeah, this costs a lot. You can get a dual IPS system for roughly $200 from Japan. And going now into the hardware things that Nintendo does that I don't like. I like the fact that save files are on the cartridges because you can just pull the game out and then put it in another handheld and have your save files there, as opposed to the Switch where you need to have a Nintendo Online subscription. But yeah, one thing that is that I don't like is I don't like how these are kind of region locked. So I would like this option to switch the interface UI to whatever language that you want. You don't really have that option on the Japanese systems, and so you have to install the North American firmware onto the console. But there's one drawback. So I hacked this. I'm not using it to pirate games or anything, but the eShop region is locked to the first region that it is accessing the eShop. So on these Japanese handhelds, if they access the eShop in any way, it gets locked to Japan, right? That is on the server side for Nintendo. So if I want to change the region, even though I have a North American firmware on this, I can't access the eShop because it's locked to Japan. So what I have to do is I have to get another Japanese 3DS. I have to revert the firmware back to Japanese firmware, and I have to transfer this console to another one. And when you transfer your system, what it does is on the server side, it wipes the eShop affiliation. So after that, I can reinstall the North American firmware. It's very easy to do once you install custom firmware because you can back up the actual NAND. And then access the eShop on North American firmware. And then from then onwards, this handheld will be tied to the North American eShop. And now I can get game updates and all that. Now I know you can download the game updates and all that stuff through Homebrew, but I want to do it through the legitimate way. So, for the Switch 2 and the Vita 2, which I'm getting pretty hyped about that if you haven't heard the rumors. Apparently like PS4 levels of hardware, of power, so that sounds pretty good. I want to have control over my data. Let me back up my save files. Let me, move them around in my handhelds. If I'm buying more than one, I'm supporting that company. Let me have the freedom to move around my save files, okay? I'm not really asking for much, like being able to change the interface language, being able to access the eShop wherever region I'm from. Like, can we stop playing these shenanigans? Because doing that sort of stuff doesn't really help the consumer at all. It does not help at all in any single way. Just let me control the hardware. Let me do what I want with my data. Just give me access to the hardware, give me access to the data. It's not a lot to ask for, but anyways. So yeah, I've been playing mostly Echoes of Wisdom. I play it a little bit before work during my lunch break. And then for Harvest Moon, I play it maybe like 30 minutes a week, where if I have some free time, I will play a little bit of it before going to sleep. But yeah, so after my experience, I am liking gaming again. It's just that I have to kind of play one game at a time, and then I want it on sort of physical media, and also have a digital backup as well. I'm not ignoring that side because I'm totally aware that the cartridges can get broken. So okay, let's go over one news item and then we'll call it quits for today. So if you haven't heard, Retroid is releasing the Retroid Pocket Mini and Pocket 5, and it uses the Snapdragon 865. And so people were theorizing that it should have roughly the same performance as the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, which uses the Dimensity 1100. And one thing that was a unforeseen benefit is that the Mini has twice the battery life, or roughly twice the battery life, as the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. And so, yeah, like the screen is brighter, the battery lasts longer, and it seems like it has a little bit easier time running games at 2x, 3x for GameCube and PS2, whereas the Retroid Pocket 4 might struggle just a little bit on some games. So a lot of people were getting FOMO. If you already have a Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, you have a nice system already. If you want to get extra battery life, if you want an OLED screen, then you may want to sell it and upgrade. But other than that, there's really no reason. It's still a really good system. If you don't have a Retro Pocket 4 Pro, but you were considering getting one, you might want to take a look at the Retro Pocket 5 or the Mini. Those might be up your alley. So that's something interesting. Battery life is higher, and if I were to consider getting like a high-end system for GameCube or PS2, I'll probably aim for the Retro Pocket Mini or the Retro Pocket 5 or the Odin 2 still. So those are pretty good handhelds. They're getting pricey though. And yeah, that's all I wanted to update. I think it's turning out to be a better buy. I would always wait a little bit before buying it. Don't get hooked into FOMO. So, but for me, what do I want to get? I don't want to get any more retro handhelds. I have enough. I only buy them to make guides. Okay, I have so many. So, and I don't end up playing them anymore because I'd rather play my Switch or my 3DS. But I want to pick up a DSi XL because I still like DS games, and that those consoles have IPS panels guaranteed. I want to get a Vita so I can play Vita games, and I want to get a PSP because the PSP games, I think, look better on the PSP than the Vita because I think there's some scaling issues in the hardware or software. But and then Game Boy Color with the OLED screen mod, and a Game Boy Advance with the IPS screen. And another Switch Lite with the OLED screen and battery and Hall effect joysticks, and just mod the crap out of it. So those are going to be my main focuses for hardware acquisition, and I'm gonna do that over a long period of time because I don't make a lot of money. Okay, I don't make a lot of money from my job. I don't make a lot of money from YouTube. I'm not gonna be able to afford doing that. Maybe like one handheld a year. But I am looking forward to the Switch 2 and the Vita 2. So there's a lot of rumors going on, and I see a lot of these rumors repeated, and there's some actual evidence, like people going through shipping manifests and all that. So it seems credible, but for the Switch 2, from what I remember, it's going to have like an 8-inch screen. It's going to be 1080p, I think. And it's going to have the power of a PS4. And the Vita 2 seems to be running the same AMD chipset or something very similar. So I'm hoping it's backwards compatibility with the Switch 1, because there are some games that don't run very well, even if you dock it. And yeah, just being able to play that in smooth frame rate would be pretty cool. I hope they focus on giving you control over access over your own games. That's the main thing I'm concerned with, because while I do like Steam a lot, Steam can go out of business, and then what happens to your games, right? Any company can go out of business or remove access from playing games nowadays, and I don't want that. I'm just thinking of when I retire and I have a lot of free time. I can just be playing games, you know? But yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. Switch 2 and Vita 2. Hopefully they're not too expensive. I think from what I've seen, it's probably gonna cost roughly around $400, maybe $500 based on the hardware. Um, I hope it's not that expensive, but I think it will be. Yeah, I'm going back to collecting physical games now. For the Switch, I'm kind of looking forward to the Mario and Luigi game, the Donkey Kong remake. I have no friends, so I won't pick a Mario Party. For the 3DS, I'll probably decide what I feel like playing. I don't really watch reviews or anything. I just pick a game and be like, oh, this looks neat. And then I buy the game. Again, one game at a time until I beat it. So it's going to be a while until I buy a 3DS game. And then Zelda, I think I'm about a quarter of the way through. But I'm having a lot of fun with that. I do want to pick up some older games. I do want to play the Miles Edgeworth collection, you know? I haven't played that. I used to be a huge Phoenix Wright fan. But yeah. Anyways, that's gonna be it, fellas. Thank you so much for dropping by and watching. I really do appreciate it. Let me know if you enjoyed this episode. I only cover one brief news item. I spent most of the time yapping. But I wanted to cover some stuff. But yeah, I will focus on making more guides, and they should take less time this time because, you know, I'm pretty comfortable with the process for upgrading stock firmware and stock OS on the True Pro, installing Crossmix. For the Mio Mini, for the M17, I'm still waiting for. They said Battle Sarah was going to come out for it. I haven't checked the recent status, but I don't think it's available yet. The SF2000, I'm waiting for firmware to kind of stabilize on that. And then the RG35XXH, I can go over all the custom firmwares and stuff, but I don't think they're really fully mature yet. So I do want to release reviews for these handhelds, and the reason why I'm not releasing it is because if I don't think there's a reason to own it, I don't want to cover it. So for the M17, if we can get custom OS to a state where it's actually pretty darn good, I might cover this. I'm waiting for Battle Sarah. MIUI is pretty decent. And the problem is, for 30 bucks, we have the A32, and you know, so there's a couple options around the $30 range. Plus, if you have coupons for sales, it might be closer to 25-ish. But yeah, I'm waiting for a reason to cover it in terms of like, there's a reason why you should get this hardware. You may want to consider it depending on your budget. And yeah, I'm just waiting for firmware developments or custom OS developments to kind of fully mature before I cover it. But yeah, I'm gonna make more guides. I'm gonna go over the boring stuff like updating software, and then I don't have to repeat that stuff in future guides, and that would let me make more guides on different topics in a little bit, I guess, faster fashion, because I don't have to repeat all that stuff over and over again. Anyways, before I keep rambling, and yeah, that's gonna be it. Thank you once again, and as always, hope you guys are staying safe and staying out there, and catch you guys next time.